Daily on Score North and ScoreNorth.com. Purple Daily, presented by Surly Brewing Company.
Vikings Vent Line. What's going on, everybody? Happy Sunday to you, wherever you may be. We do Vikings Vent Line every Sunday on the Purple Daily YouTube channel. If you'd like to get in on a future episode of Vikings Vent Line, why don't you shoot me an email? Scrolling across the bottom of the screen right now for the YouTube audience, it's vikingsventline@gmail.com. Yeah, people drop off sometimes last second, but also I still have a list of people I like to contact. So if you'd like to get in on a future show, just shoot me an email. It's vikingsventline@gmail.com. We do the show during the regular season with Mackie and Judd, but during the offseason, I still like to bring fans on with myself to talk about the Vikings and talk about what's going on in the offseason, expectations for the upcoming season. We are in that probably the slowest abyss time of the NFL offseason, which is obviously usually in mid-June after the OTAs end, and we still have that little gap between when training camp actually starts, but there's still plenty to talk about. So I'm going to have my guys Jake and Henry here join me in just a couple seconds, or a couple minutes, I should say, to break things down on Vikings Vent Line. Of course, we are presented by Surly Brewing and TCL. Surly Brewing, enjoy the Surly Furious. Of course, there's the Grapefruit Supreme. You can head on down to the tap room here if you're in Minneapolis or in Minnesota, or wherever you may be. Head out to the tap room. It's a great place, great to enjoy a beer on a summer day. Also, TCL, enjoy more of what you love with TCL. Football season's coming up, so make sure you pick up a TCL television. Again, Vikings Vent Line, Purple Daily. Hit the subscribe button on this YouTube channel for daily Minnesota Vikings entertainment. We are a Vikings podcast that produces 7 days a week, 365 days a year with Mackie, Judd, and myself. Like I said, we do the Vikings Vent Line show during the regular season. We'll do the offseason edition until the Vikings start week 1 against the Green Bay Packers on September 11th. So still plenty of things to talk about as we get closer to that. A quick shout out to our friends at Brainerd International Raceway. America's fastest drivers are coming to Minnesota for an experience of a lifetime. Brainerd International Raceway is bringing Discovery Channel's Street Outlaws and the No Prep Kings to the Brainerd Lakes area June 17th and 18th. For camping and ticketing information, visit BIRMN.com. It's BIRMN.com. Kids 12 and under also getting free, so the kiddos can come at free if they're 12 and under. Visit BIRMN.com for more information. Pleasantries aside, get our guys Jake and Henry in here to join Vikings Vent Line. First timers on Vikings Vent Line. I was talking to Jake off the mic. Jake's down in Iowa. He's coming up to for his first trip to US Bank Stadium in week 1 next season. I bet that's gonna be an awesome time, Jake. Are you pumped for that game?
Oh yeah, I'm excited, dude. I can't wait. It's gonna be awesome. I hope we kick the crap out of Rodgers. That's all I care about.
Exactly.
Oh yeah.
Henry, I wasn't able to ask. Are you in the Twin Cities? You in Minnesota? Where do you reside from?
I am in Eagan, Minnesota, about 8 minutes from the TCO Performance Center, so pretty nice. Yeah.
You guys are lucky, man. Jeez.
It's fun. Yeah, it's awesome.
It's always funny because every time, and if you guys have even joined or watched, I should say, Vikings Vent Line before, it's usually like a cast of characters from all over the country, sometimes even out of the country. So Henry, like, you're one of the rare guys who was actually joining me here, like in the metro area, where typically I'm talking to someone like Jake in Iowa or someone in South Carolina. So actually a local fan. How long have you guys been Vikings fans your whole life? Was it who brought you into being a Vikings fan and as this torturous fan base? Who was the one who was responsible for it?
Well, my dad, he's responsible. Yeah, I've been a Vikings fan since I was a little kid. I'm 22, but yeah, I would say my first memories as a Vikings fan, probably 2009. I was 9 years old and I was watching that season. I was like, holy crap. Like, my brother was a Saints fan. I was like, oh my God, we're about to go to the Super Bowl. We were winning that game. I was actually driving home from a wrestling tournament in Wisconsin, listening to it on the radio. So I wasn't really watching the whole game. I saw the end of the game at the last 2 minutes of the game on TV. And yeah, that was my first real heartbreak as a Vikings fan. It sucked. I don't know if I was sad, mad. I think it's just a mixture of both. It was horrible, but yeah, that was my first heartbreak.
Yeah, I was 17. I was a junior in high school for 2009. Yes, that was more fear. I was more furious and anger than I was sad. I was just fuming with rage that they basically threw the game away. Henry, what about you, man? Who made you a Vikings fan? How long you been a Vikings fan?
Yeah, my dad as well. Been it since I was born. Randy Moss was really the guy that got me to love it. Culpepper and Randy Moss was just, I loved watching that growing up. It made it so fun. And I remember 2009 too. I was 14 when that happened. Okay. And, it was just heartbreaking. That was the first time, and I think the only time I've ever cried watching a football game. To be honest, I was just so sad. Like, it was so bad. So No, yeah,
Painful.
I've always loved the Vikes, but they make you earn their love. That's for sure.
Yes, they do. Boys, let's get into Vikings Vent Line here. I sent a little prep email over asking your most impactful players, the three most important players, I should say, to the Vikings' success in 2022. Jake, I'll start with you. Who is your list of the three most important players for the Vikings' success this season?
Well, I wanted to put Kirk and JJ separate, but I feel like they are pretty much stuck together. Like JJ can't thrive unless Kirk does good. So I'm going to put those two actually together. Kirk has to, hopefully he can learn the system, and hopefully JJ can. I heard Judd saying that he was kind of swimming. He thought with just trying to learn the routes. I think he's smart enough. I think he'll pick it up. I don't think Justin Jefferson, he wants to win. He's going to do all the work that he can to, and I think Thielen will help with that too, especially being a veteran. But I think Kirk and JJ together, that if Kirk can thrive, JJ is going to have a hell of a season, I think. So.
Yeah, you need both of them to be successful, right? So obviously, like Kirk and JJ doing their thing. Jefferson's had just two unbelievable seasons so far, but what can he do even to scratch the surface more, right? Like Cooper Kupp was this great wide receiver last year with the Rams. Kevin O'Connell now coming over from LA, trying to implement him and being in that Cooper Kupp role. I like it. Anyone on the defensive side of the ball, Jake, that you're looking at to make a big impact this year?
Danielle Hunter, for sure. His impact on the field, when he's off the field, you can tell such a difference of, his impact on the game. You have to have an elite edge rusher in today's NFL because, he can chase guys to the sideline. He's so athletic. He can he can go from one side of the field to the other and chase down running backs, quarterbacks that are mobile. But yeah, you need a guy like that. And with Zadarius Smith along with him, that's going to be scary if those guys can both play. And I don't think Daniil's injury prone necessarily. So I think we're going to see him play more games this season than we have before.
Yeah, it was unfortunate to Daniil that he had this freak neck injury 2 years ago. Last year, I believe it was a pec. Like, it'd be one thing if he was aggravating the same injury over and over again, or if he was just having these nagging injuries that have added up over time. But yeah, kind of just two fluky, random injuries that I don't think correlate with one another. But it is still obviously a big if and a little bit of an asterisk between both him and Zadarius, because if they both can't stay on the field, and that defense probably is close to being as a sieve as it's been the last two seasons, and they need those two guys kind of be the linchpin of that defense to get after the quarterback. Henry, how about you, man? What impact players are you looking at for the Vikings this season?
Yeah, definitely Kirk and Daniil. I'm with you on that. They're going to be huge aspects of how our team will run. We really need Kirk to step up. But I think a big part of that is who's going to be playing right guard. We have no clue yet. And with Kirk needs time. He needs time to let plays develop. He needs time to let things work out. Otherwise, he's just going to be check down Charlie again. And we need to avoid that. So I think whoever's playing right guard and then Garrett Bradbury at center are probably going to be two of the most influential positions on the team this year, especially with our offense.
Yeah, we talk about the weapons, right? We talk about even the impact defensive players like Danielle Hunter and Zadarius Smith, or, I know we didn't mention Harrison Smith either. But the offensive line has been still like this work in progress, Band-Aid offensive line that they've used the last few years. And if Chris Reed and Garrett Bradbury, kind of that interior part, because the tackles are solidified, right? Like, Christian Darrisaw, when he was finally able to get it on the field last year, looked pretty good. Brian O'Neill's shockingly been one of the best tackles in the NFL, low-key, since he came in the league in 2018 as well. But that center and that right interior lineman spots on the Vikings haven't held up their end of the bargain. And even if the Vikings can get like league average, right? And I think that's all Vikings fans are asking for, right? They're not asking like Chris Reed to take this insane step and be one of the best guards. Same with Garrett Bradbury. They're not really asking him even though he was drafted as a first-round pick. Like, I think we now know who he is, so it's probably too far-fetched to assume that he's going to take that big leap from one of the worst centers in the NFL to being one of the best. But can we make it league average? Can you give Kirk enough time, for God's sakes, just to have him step back in the pocket more and not be so rushed from the blitz or check down because he's too scared to take a chance? That offensive line definitely still has to hold up its end of the bargain. I like all those options. I think those are all good ones. I think kind of a sneaky one is Herb Smith, just because he missed time last year, right, and was poised to have kind of this big season, but then got the injury in training camp. Kene Nwangu flashed when he was able to get in as a kick returner, but also as a swing man out of the backfield. I feel like this offense has plenty of weapons, like just top to bottom. There's really no reason now that they have an offensive-minded coach for it not to be a top 10 unit. So it's going to be a fun offense, I think, to watch in 2022.
Yeah, I think Dalvin Cook too. He, I mean, Zimmer, I mean, but yeah, Dalvin had all those shoulder injuries, right? And Zimmer pounded him up the gut constantly. It's like, you're just asking for him to re-injure.
Mm-hmm.
You got to get him out in space. You see how fast he is, and his vision's insane. I mean, you got to get him out in the.
Well, we got a dang good fullback too. I'm
Right.
really excited to see how O'Connell's going to use him, because I think, either as a blocker or even as a receiver out of the backfield, have Cook do some more downfield, midfield type receiving, and then have Ham come out of the backfield. I think that could be a really deadly combination, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Dalvin's like legitimately a top 5 running back. Everyone knows that, but it was like he was treated as just like a traditional back, right? Like he had to get his touches. Zimmer had to have the offense go through him, and to a degree, that is correct. He should be touching the football a lot, but there's other creative ways to use him. It's not just, pounding him up the A gap and having a guy who is injury prone. Speaking of someone who is injury prone, Dalvin kind of is, unfortunately. Right. And you got to figure out ways to use him more creatively. And if that's swinging him out in the passing game, creating more screen plays, just not having him run up the A gap and just being single back formation. Here you go, Dalvin. Here's your touches. I think that's something that Kevin O'Connell will bring in a unique way that, Mike Zimmer and the Kubiaks basically kind of weren't able to get out of all of Dalvin in the last few seasons.
Well, yeah, Madison could have done that job last season, really, with how they utilized Cook.
Right.
Madison could have done that for way cheaper. So,
and it feels like, when Dalvin missed time, right, to your point, Henry, like they used Alexander Madison. Madison actually had some pretty decent games, went over 100 yards. I know he had like that fumble. I'm blanking on the game that kind of ruined things for the Vikes, but at the same time, like, Madison is kind of like that classic bell cow running back, that running back that you can find in the later rounds that isn't a flashy or a sexy player, but he can still get the touches and give you what you're looking for. And Dalvin, I think, is that next level running back. Like you said, he's a top 5 dude in the league, and he should be utilized and be treated as such. Yeah,
look what the Ravens did last year with their cacophony of running backs. We could have done that the same way if we wanted to. The Baltimore Ravens fans, I mean, they had injuries all over the place, but they were like starting like there's 7 different running backs like all of last season. I honestly felt bad for him.
Was it Seattle? Was that the game that pretty much ruined Alexander Madison's reputation?
Yeah.
When he missed the hole, and we got stopped, and oh my God, oh man.
Well, Dalvin had a big fumble last season too.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
right. You're right. Yeah. Those, people hate Alexander Madison for that, and but he runs. I mean, he runs hard. Like, he does not pull back or anything. Like, when he gets a chance, he works his ass off and does whatever it takes.
Fellas, I'm curious in your grades for the offseason. I was asking fans this question kind of shortly after the first wave of offseason moves that happened in late March, early April, but I'd like to get other fans' takes on it too. Jake, how did you think this offseason went? What kind of letter grade would you give it if you were grading it?
I would give him an A if I could. Just because Mike Zimmer and Rick Spielman were fired, that was already a high grade for me. But bringing Kevin O'Connell and Kwesi, I think I could give him an A. But what concerns me the most is the center position. That's why I'm so confused on what we're going to do with Bradbury. Like, if that just falls apart, like, what are we supposed to think? It's like, you guys thought you could change him, but we've kind of seen for the past 4 years like what he's capable of. And I was just thinking ahead to like the first couple of games this season. He's gonna have to face that Jordan Davis from Georgia. Mm-hmm. I don't even want to know what that's gonna look like. I mean, Kirk is gonna have Garrett Bradbury forklifted back into him every single play if we're going to have Bradbury out there. I just don't think if we're going to go all in, we need to protect Kirk with whatever we can, and Bradbury's not the answer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a gamble that they're just spanking that Garrett Bradbury can, like we said off the top of the show, rebound to being a league average center, which shouldn't be too much of an ask. But I mean, he's been a below average center in his first 3 years in the NFL.
Far below average, yeah.
Oh yeah.
And they didn't draft one, right? Like, I think it'd be one thing if they did take a chance on a center on day 2 or 3 of the draft to say, hey, here's some competition. Like, even if Garrett Bradbury is the starter, this guy will be the next one in line. Like, they are an injury from Garrett Bradbury. Like, they're one injury away at center from having basically no one to play that position competently. So
was there is Kyle Hinton someone that was, I thought I heard on the show before,
Wyatt Davis put in?
Yeah, Wyatt Davis
someone
has been MIA on a milk carton basically since he's been drafted. They don't have a backup plan, and you're right, dude. I mean that's kind of where it's at with the center is that they're banking that Garrett Bradbury has yet to be unlocked fully. It is a gamble on their part. Right. Henry, what about you, man? What grade would you give the Vikings offense this season?
I would have given it a B- personally. I think, like you said, getting rid of Zimmer, I think was a good idea. He was a great coach in a lot of ways, though he just didn't fit the evolving culture that the team really needed. So I think KOC is really a good step in the right direction there. But like you said, no definitive action at the center or at the right guard. That's worrisome to me. I'm worried about our cornerbacks. I think we'll be really good with our safeties. I think Lewis Cine is going to be awesome. And I think we could even go on some 3 safety sets, have almost like a monster safety kind of shadow, more athletic quarterbacks and really good running backs. But I am afraid about where like in a nickel type thing, but I'm afraid how we'll deal with our cornerbacks. Patrick Peterson, is he going to lose a step? Is he even going to start? We don't know. I mean, you saw what Chris Boyd was doing on that podcast yesterday or whatever. Is he even going to be around? That was just stupid. And it's like
that dumb.
I'm just worried about our secondary. I think we didn't do enough action on that. And I'm also a little worried about Greg Joseph. I know he's good. He's not great. He's good. But we lost so many 1-score games, and that was not his fault. But we need consistency. We need someone that can really, when they go out there, are they going to make this? When, you want them to trot out there. If it's inside 50 yards, you expect them to make it. And we should have that. We have it since, honestly, like Blair Walsh's rookie season, honestly. And that was the one season we had that. And then what happened after that?
Dude, it's been 10 years, right? It's been over 10 years since like a kicker has trotted out there and that you have felt good. Even when Blair trotted out in the wildcard game before the infamous insane shank, you still didn't feel great, right? Like there was still the nerves, even, like and surpassed just the environment and the circumstance. Like it was the kicker that you're like, I don't feel good about this pooch kick, right? They haven't had that consistency with a kicker since Longwell, or to your point too, Blair's rookie season, where no one saw him being an all-pro his rookie year by any means either.
By any means.
But they haven't had it, and I think to your original point of the cornerbacks too, like that is by far their weakest position. I think they should have brought in a center, but in terms of just like the position as a whole, cornerback is the one where like, oh man, if they can't rush the passer, like teams are gonna kill the Vikings on the offense, right? Like they're gonna pass all day on them. They got to play Aaron Rodgers twice a year.
And I'm not sold on Darius Smith either yet.
Yeah, the dude barely played. He
slept wrong.
2 games, and my God, come on, dude.
Yeah,
just hysterical. So I think Jake giving it an A. I like the positivity. I like the optimism. I'll probably slide more towards Henry. I think it's more like a B or a B minus, just in terms of my grade there.
Yeah, but I think it's a
B minus.
I think it's a B plus. I was going to give him an A if they addressed center, but since they didn't, I'm giving him a B plus.
Well, why not draft that center from Iowa? That's what I thought we should have done.
Linderbaum,
Oh, he was Tyler Linderbaum. Yeah, he was incredible. He would have been such a good addition to our team, just what we needed. And I'm really disappointed we didn't go get him.
Yeah. Jake, did you watch him play at all since you're down in Iowa at all?
Yeah, I'm a Hawkeyes fan, sadly, so I get to watch the nepotism of Kirk and Bryant Ferentz on Bryant Ferentz's stale offense that is horrible to watch. But Linderbaum. I mean, Iowa's always puts out like great tight ends and great like offensive lines, and they always go to the NFL. So and they always seem to prove themselves too in the NFL, like Tristan Wirfs. And I think Linderbaum, I mean, people are undersized center this, undersized center that. I'm like, I don't think you guys have actually watched him play. That guy was rock solid. He actually went to high school like 20 minutes away from where I live. Nice. So,
Bradbury was an undersized center, and he's definitely lived up to that moniker. That's problem. For sure. Yeah, right. He's definitely been a problem.
Absolutely. Boys, before I get to the expectations for the Vikings this season, just a quick shout out to the Meadows at Mystic Lake, which is an award-winning 18-hole public course. Book your tee time this summer at golfthemeadows.com. Again, golfthemeadows.com to book your tee time or check out their pro shops. It's right down here in the Twin Cities on Prior Lake, just about 30 minutes south. Great place to golf. Meadows at Mystic Lake to learn more. What are your guys' expectations for the Vikings this season? We have a new coach, obviously, but the offense still kind of remains the same. Defense is a work in progress. Jake, I'll start with you. What are your expectations for the Vikings this season?
Um, 11-6, I would say roughly. If things go well, maybe more. But if things go really badly, like really badly, I still think we hold 9 wins, maybe 8. I don't see us going 8-9 though this year. I don't. I mean, just Kevin O'Connell and Ed Donatel too. He's a proven defensive coordinator with. I mean, he worked with Vic Fangio, and they've always had good defenses. I think that we go 11-6 if we can keep key players on the field. Possibly winning the division. I don't know how good Green Bay's offense is going to be. I think their defense is pretty solid. I think they have Eric Stokes, Jair Alexander. But I think that we might be able to pass them. If not this year, next year, I think we will take back the North. But for expectations, just this year, I think 11-6.
Okay. Henry, how about you, man? What are your expectations this season?
Yeah, I think 11-6 is almost a little bit too optimistic. I think that's high end what we could do. I'm more around that 9-8, maybe 10-7. I mean, we have a good chance to make the playoffs with how weak the NFC is this year. So I think that if we don't make the playoffs, we better trade Kirk. He has the opportunity. I mean, if he can throw for 4,800 yards, 35 touchdowns, 10, 12 interceptions, yeah, we could really be a solid team, I think. But, I mean, unless our O-line's top 15, 14 even, we're not going to be able to do that. So my expectation is we need to use this year as more of a building year. I think this is, Kirk's last year to really prove he can do it. And my expectation is this will be his last season unless he can be a top 3 quarterback and we can be a top 3 offense. So I expect top 5, but unless top 3, we're not doing good enough.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that I know Zimmer is a defensive-minded coach, but the fact that Vikings offense the last 2 seasons still wasn't top 10 is still kind of a little puzzling. And does that just all come down to coaching? And probably coaching for sure plays a chunk of the pie. But, I mean, it's kind of like unacceptable, the fact like you had Jefferson and Thielen and Dalvin Cook, and I know Irv Smith missed last year, but you had a good amount of pieces that a lot of teams would love to have, and you have a plethora of it. And it just seems like they still weren't able to break it. So, like, expectations, even beyond records, like, that offense should be top 10. Like, it should be top 10 and sniffing top 5 at the very least, right? Like, it has to be somewhere in there. Record-wise, yeah, a lot of things can change if injuries and there's so many X factors in. Yeah, I'm kind of at 9, maybe 10 wins. Jake, to your point of getting to 11, I mean, that would be great. If they got to 11 wins, like, that potentially wins the North. You're obviously in the playoffs if you're at 11-win team. I know that there's 7 seeds now in the NFC and the AFC for playoff picture, but if you get to 11 wins, yeah, you're probably talking about winning the North. It's going to be a fun season. I think that's the fact that there's a new coach, there's a little bit of breath of fresh air and positivity and optimism that it makes this next season here going to be a blast. So I'm really excited for it. Fellas, before I wrap Vikings Vent Line, any last takes you'd like to give? Anyone you'd like to shout out? Jake, I'll start with you.
Well, I got a hot take.
Love it.
One last hot take.
Hit me.
I know this is probably way too optimistic, but I'm saying within the next 3 years, the Vikings will be in the Super Bowl. Okay. Within the next, I'm not saying I think this year would be just over the top. Mm-hmm. We could get to maybe a wild card divisional game, but I think instead of us taking steps backwards like we did with Zimmer, we'll just keep taking a step forward. I think within the next 3 years, the Vikings will be in the Super Bowl. And if we win, Justin Jefferson or Danielle Hunter will be the MVP of that game.
I dig it, dude.
I love
Very
that.
hot, spicy.
Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah, gotta bring some positivity.
Mm-hmm. I love it. It might not be purple positivity, but I love it. That's great.
Awesome. Dude, I dig it. Henry, what about you, man? You got something to top that take, or what do you got there?
I'll turn what my shout out was going to be into a hot take.
Okay.
Kellen Mond will be the QB1 of the Vikings in 2023.
Okay.
Nice.
That is my hot take. I think, and it will not be, well, we have no one else. I think we'll have the option to draft someone like Bryce Young or something, and we'll choose not to. I've always been a big fan of his. If he had been drafted to this draft, he would have been late first round, early second, probably, because it was a very weak draft. And I think he's got a lot of potential. And I was worried last year because Zimmer was obviously not a fan of him. But now that he has a coach that actually wants to work with him, wants to develop him, and we have a very solid offensive coaching staff, he has a chance. And if Kirk wets the bed again, I think he has a good chance to step up and be the guy we need to be. We need that dual threat quarterback that doesn't run first, but can run. And I think he has an opportunity to be that for us.
He's clearly getting a shot, Kellen Mond. He's getting his chance here. He's getting plenty of reps, at least early here in OTAs, and there could be a chance too. He does indeed open as QB2. I think a lot of us kind of were surprised, and I know a little more information's come out that yes, Zimmer obviously wasn't a big fan of the pick, not necessarily the player, and then Kellen Mond obviously got COVID. He said that kind of set him back physically for a little bit there in a very crucial time in training camp, and he's getting his fair shot to be QB2. I honestly think we're going to be trending towards him most likely backing up Kirk. And I know they have Sean Mannion back here, but if he continues to wow, I mean, you can't just make him inactive, right? Like if he's one play away and Kellen Mond step in, let Kellen Mond go. So I love both those takes. Jake saying the Vikes going to the Super Bowl in the next 3 years. Henry, you're saying Kellen Mond could potentially be QB1 by week 1 of next season.
It's gonna be Sean Mannion. Come on, man. He's gonna be starting. Right. He's starting week 1.
It's his blankie. It's Kirk's blankie. He loves his Sean Mannion.
My TV would not be going on. I'd cancel my ticket purchase if I wouldn't be going to watch a statue of Sean Mannion.
No kidding, dude. That Packers game was painful enough, right? Like that was.
I didn't watch the second half. There's no point.
You didn't miss much.
I know I didn't. Oh man.
Oh man.
Jake, Henry, thanks for coming on, dudes. Appreciate you guys joining Vikings Vent Line first time. Of course. Come on again during the season. Get you on, write that down or something. Appreciate everyone that always comes on Purple Daily, especially first timers. So thank you, boys. Enjoy your weekend. If you'd like to get on Vikings Vent Line, for anyone watching or listening, hit me up. It's vikingsventline@gmail.com. Mackie, Judd, and myself back tomorrow, I should say, on Monday here on Purple Daily.